It started with a low-res story frame that wasn't supposed to last more than 24 hours. Jungkook, or someone who looked too much like him to dismiss, caught in the reflection of a dark glass door at the back of a Seoul lounge. The first screenshot came from a private Instagram story, not a fan site, not a paparazzi feed. A mutual of a mutual had tagged the venue, added a harmless caption about late-night vibes, and accidentally left the tiny white silhouette in the corner of the frame. A familiar profile under a cap, standing just inside the entryway with a girl in a black blazer. Same height difference as in airport photos. Same way he leaned slightly away from the crowd. At first, nobody cared about her. The comments in the tiny circle of viewers were basic. Wait, is that Jungkook? No way. Could be staff. Then someone paused the frame and noticed the timing on the lounge's own page. A check-in post from 2 hours earlier, showing a girl in the same blazer, laughing with friends near the entrance. Not a stylist, not security, just a guest. That overlap, same door, same night, same jacket, was all it took. The real shift came when someone pointed out that the reflection wasn't from the entrance camera at all, but from the inside door that only opens toward the street when you leave. The implication slid in quietly. If that really was him, he hadn't just been arriving with her. He'd been seen at the moment of walking out with her. No visible staff, no crowd, no buffer. The mistake happened when the story owner panicked and deleted it. But one viewer had already screen recorded everything, including the viewer list. They didn't blur the username before dropping the clip into a small fandom group chat. No context, no disclaimer. Just, explain this? Within minutes, the username was cropped, recropped, then exposed again by someone who forgot to double-check before posting to Twitter. That was the first real crack. It wasn't the image that felt wrong. It was how fast people were willing to zoom in. How quickly the girl stopped being a person and turned into a question mark standing too close to a door he wasn't supposed to use, with someone he wasn't supposed to arrive with, and definitely wasn't supposed to leave with. The second wave didn't start with a photo. It started with a correction. A fan account with barely 100 followers tweeted, then deleted. He didn't arrive alone, which immediately spawned 3 contradictory quote tweets claiming they'd seen him enter through different doors at different times. One insisted he came with staff through the service corridor. Another swore she saw him step out of a black van alone. A third said the girl in the blazer was already inside when he showed up. None of the posts matched, and that mismatch, those fractures, made the whole thing feel less like rumor and more like something slipping through fingers. Someone dug up a time-stamped clip from the lounge's outdoor security cam, supposedly leaked on Kakao, showing a pair entering just minutes apart. A girl in a black blazer, then a man in a cap. The footage was too grainy to confirm anything, but the silhouettes lined up a little too well. Fans argued over stride length, shoulder angles, the way he tends to touch the brim of his hat when entering crowded places. Others pushed back, saying the clip was doctored, the angles inconsistent. But the debate wasn't about proof anymore. It was about possibility. If he really came with staff, where were they in the exit shot? Someone asked, then locked their account after being flooded with replies. That question kept resurfacing, copied, screenshotted, misquoted. Some fans said he must have slipped out ahead of his team. Others claimed the girl wasn't with him at all, that she just happened to step into the frame at the wrong second. But then came the 12-second audio leak from inside the lounge, a muffled background recording of someone saying, "He left already? With her?" The voice was unclear, gender impossible to tell, and the authenticity was doubtful, but nobody cared. The tension wasn't in the words, it was in the timing. It hit just after someone posted a blurry reflection from a bathroom mirror showing 2 indistinct figures leaving the bar area. That reflection didn't prove anything, but the girl's blazer was unmistakable. Fans tried to rationalize. Maybe she was just walking in the same direction. Maybe they weren't together. Maybe the angles were all coincidental. But even those explanations felt shaky, like they were trying too hard. The discussion became disorganized, messy, uneven. Posts appeared claiming he'd been seen talking to someone near the lounge earlier, then disappeared as fast as they were posted. Mods in several fandom spaces begged people to stop spreading unverified content, which only made others assume something was being buried. Screenshots of disappearing threads spread faster than the threads themselves. The confusion wasn't clarifying anything. It was multiplying it. Because every attempt to dismiss the narrative created a new branch of it. Every correction raised more questions than answers. And somewhere in that swirl of half-truths, guesses, and deletions, one uncomfortable idea kept resurfacing. If nothing happened, why were there so many versions of the night? And why did none of them feel stable? By the third surge, the fandom wasn't even arguing about the girl anymore. They were arguing about the moment. A single frame from a passerby's TikTok, filmed hours before anyone noticed anything strange, resurfaced when someone recognized the lounge's entrance in the background. It showed a crowd walking past, neon reflections on wet pavement, and, just for half a second, a man in a cap stepping aside to let someone through the door. The TikTok wasn't about him. It wasn't even about the lounge. It was a night in Seoul montage, but someone slowed it to half speed, then quarter speed, then freeze-framed it until the pixels crumbled. The girl in the black blazer appeared 2 seconds later in the same video. Only this time, she was adjusting her sleeve as she stepped inside. Still no interaction, still no contact, still no confirmation they were connected. But the order, him pausing, her entering, looked too deliberate when stitched next to the exit clip. That stitching became the problem. One fan posted an edit showing the timeline of that night. Him outside, her entering, him inside, her inside, him leaving, her leaving. The captions were careful. Looks like, seems like, could be coincidence. But the implication was loud enough that the edit hit 100,000 views before the creator locked their account in panic. The real explosion came from a 5-second clip taken inside the lounge earlier that evening. Someone panning their phone across the bar to show the live band, accidentally catching 2 blurred figures near the back. One with a cap, one with a dark blazer. They weren't sitting together, but the distance was close enough to make fans uncomfortable. Too close to argue they hadn't noticed each other. Not close enough to say they were together. It was the in-between that hurt the most. Comment threads got savage. Some insisted it wasn't Jungkook, pointing out that the person in the cap had slightly broader shoulders. Others zoomed in on the blazer sleeve, insisting it was identical to the exit clip. But the loudest conversation wasn't about identities. It was about patterns. Why is every angle just barely showing something? Why is there always one detail missing? Why does this feel like we're catching the edges of something he didn't intend us to see? And then, someone made the mistake that turned everything radioactive. A mid-size fan account, quote, tweeted the stitched timeline edit with, "So they really were there together the whole night." It lasted 40 seconds before deletion, but screenshots spread instantly. Fans scolded them, begged them to take it back, insisted they were jumping to conclusions, but the damage was done. Not because the claim was convincing, but because it showed how easy it was to believe it for a split second too long. That moment of believing, even accidentally, was what fans couldn't shake. They weren't asking, "Who is she?" anymore. They were asking, "What did we just witness? A collection of coincidences? A misunderstanding? Or something that shouldn't have been visible at all?" The uncertainty didn't calm the fandom. It electrified it. Because the more they tried to prove nothing happened, the more undeniable it became that something had been seen. Not clearly, not fully. Just enough to make everyone realize they were no longer talking about the girl. They were talking about the possibility that he wasn't supposed to be seen like that, in that place, at that time, with anyone. By the fourth wave, the conversation had split into so many versions that no one could tell which detail came first, or whether any of them belonged to the same night at all. A cropped clip from someone's friends-only story leaked, showing the lounge's hallway from an angle no one had posted before. The video lasted only a second, shaky and dim, but in the background 2 silhouettes passed by the frosted glass divider. One shorter, one taller, moving in parallel, not touching, yet unmistakably aligned in pace. Fans argued immediately. That could be anyone. The height difference is off. The lighting is wrong. But someone pointed out that the divider glass was only installed near the private booths, not the main bar. That tiny piece of architectural trivia became the new anchor for speculation. If they were walking there, they weren't just passing through, they were heading toward the back exit, and that was enough to reignite everything. A popular fan account tried to debunk the hallway clip by posting old layout photos, but accidentally included a mirror shot that reflected a man in a cap standing near the same divider months earlier. It wasn't relevant, but the image circulated anyway, merged with the current rumor until people began confusing the timelines. Some fans insisted the mirror photo was from the same night. Others claimed it disproved the exit theory entirely. The contradictions fed each other in real time. Then, without warning, a deleted comment from a lounge regular resurfaced in screenshots. He was near the back booth for a while. Looked like he was waiting for someone. The commenter later denied writing it, suggesting their account had been impersonated. But screenshots kept appearing. Different resolutions, different languages, none identical. The inconsistency made it worse. People weren't debating authenticity anymore. They were debating motives. Why would someone invent that? Why deny it? Why delete anything? Why were there now 3 different versions of the same alleged comment? Another thread claimed that staff had been unusually strict about phones that night, asking some guests to lower their cameras. Someone else countered that the lounge always did that on weekends. But the question lingered. If he didn't want to be seen, why choose a venue where guests post constantly? If he did want to be seen, why choose a moment so subtle no one could agree on what happened? A Discord mod tried shutting down talk of the rumor, saying the clip wasn't definitive, but that only sparked a wave of accusations that fan bases were coordinating to suppress discussion. Suddenly, every deleted post, every blurred username, every locked account looked suspicious. Fans began compiling inconsistencies, timestamps, shadows, outfit matches, even the angle of the cap brim. Others begged people to stop overanalyzing. But the overanalysis wasn't the problem. It was the silence. No clarifications from the lounge, no statements from Hybe, no acknowledgement from anyone who had been there. And into that silence spilled a new theory. Maybe the real issue wasn't whether they left together, but whether they were seen too easily. He knows where the cameras are, a user wrote, so why didn't he avoid them? It wasn't confirmation. It wasn't even a solid claim. It was an unease blooming into something bigger. The realization that every attempt to explain the night only made it feel more deliberate, or more accidental, or both at once. That was the problem. Nobody could agree on what version felt less wrong. By the fifth rupture, the story wasn't linear anymore. It was an ecosystem eating itself, mutating faster than anyone could track. A new clip surfaced, not new in content, just newly noticed. It was part of a vlog posted days earlier by someone who had no idea their background would become forensic evidence. In the blurred mirror behind the bartender, two figures were caught mid-motion. Someone in a dark cap turning slightly, someone in a black blazer stepping forward as if responding to him. The moment was so tiny, so contextless, that half the fandom dismissed it instantly. But the other half insisted the blazer's outline matched the exit shot. And that insistence, even from a minority, was enough to yank the discourse back into chaos. Threads erupted trying to match the bartender's movements to the time the exit clip supposedly happened, but nothing lined up. The bartender's watch showed a different hour. The lighting didn't match. The reflections didn't behave the same way. Instead of disproving the rumor, the mismatches made everything worse, because each contradiction opened room for a different interpretation. If this isn't the same moment, someone wrote, does that mean they were together more than once that night? That comment was deleted instantly, but screenshots multiplied before anyone could breathe. Another user claimed the girl's blazer had a hidden metallic button visible only in the interior clip. Others countered that the button was just a smudge on the mirror. But the debate wasn't about the button. It was about ownership of the narrative. Every fandom circle tried to regain control and failed. Group chats banned the topic. Mods shut down threads. Popular accounts begged people to stop speculating, only to be accused of covering something up. The pressure wasn't coming from what was shown. It was coming from what couldn't be unseen. The alignment of two silhouettes in too many independent sources to call coincidence without sounding naive. The discussion pivoted again, this time toward motive. Why leave through the back door if the front was empty? Why wasn't staff visible? Why was she behind him in one clip and beside him in another? No one had answers, yet everyone had theories. Some fans insisted it was staged to provoke rumor. Others insisted it was accidental visibility. A few whispered that maybe the real issue wasn't the girl herself, but the timing. Why that night, that venue, that door? And then came the moment that sealed the rumor's permanence. A large fan account posted, "Whatever actually happened, the damage is done," then immediately locked their profile. Those 9 words echoed everywhere. Not because they confirmed anything. Nothing was confirmed. But because they admitted what no one wanted to say out loud. The story was no longer stoppable. It had detached from evidence, from logic, from the original clip. It had become collective, self-sustaining, impossible to rewind. Even the people trying to calm the fandom only fueled the suspicion. Silence felt defensive, explanations felt forced, and every attempt at rationalization made the timeline feel even stranger. By midnight, the rumor had reached a point where no new detail could clarify anything. Every image contradicted another. Every witness negated someone else. Every denial looked like strategy. And yet the one thing nobody could shake was the simplest part. Jungkook was seen leaving a lounge. A girl was seen near him. They moved too closely to ignore, too distantly to define. Not proof, just proximity. Not a story, just a moment. And that moment, multiplied through thousands of eyes and screens, became something heavier than fact. A question suspended in midair, with no version of the truth capable of settling it. The night remained unresolved. The rumor stayed unfinished. The fandom was left staring at fragments that added up to nothing. And somehow, that nothing felt like the loudest answer of all.